Welcome to the Brass and Woodwind Shop. There are three common problems on saxophone octave keys that are easy to fix, and I'll show you what they are. One of the common problems is that when you push down the octave lever, it does not activate the neck octave key enough, so this key either doesn't open far enough or it does not open at all. The way to fix that is to hold open the key with one hand, with the other hand carefully flex the key and make sure that you don't go too far, but you need to bend it a little bit. Bend it to the point where there's just a small gap between the neck octave key and the octave rocker. And if you go a little too far, hold down the octave key and bend the other direction. There should be just a small gap so that you start pushing on the octave a little bit and it doesn't move, but then you go a little farther and it does move. The reason you want a little gap is because different people put their necks on at a little different angle. If you make it so that there's no gap and someone puts their neck on just slightly different, then it can make the octave key open a little bit, and then you'll get a lot of squeaking. If there's just a little gap here and the octave key still does not open far enough, then probably the cork underneath where your thumb is too thick or the key is bent. To fix it, either straighten out the key or sand the cork down so that it opens the right distance. Another common problem is that when the octave lever is not pushed down, the octave key is open anyway. You fix that by holding the key down and then you carefully flex the other part open, and again you do it to the point where there's just a little gap in between there. Another common problem is that both octave keys can open at once. When you push down the lever with your thumb, this key should open. Then when you push down the G key, the neck octave key should close and it should open up the body octave key. But there's not enough motion from the G key to open up the body octave key all the way, and because of that, the neck octave key does not close, and you can see that it's not closing. And if you bend the key to compensate for that, it's going to cause other problems. The problem is not with this key. The problem is usually with the G key. If I take the saxophone and turn it around, you can see what the problem is. Here's the G key touch piece, and here's the G key. And you can see that it does not open very far. So I'm going to get that to open farther. And the way to do that is to hold the G key open and then push on the touch piece a little bit until it flexes. It should cause the G key to open a little farther. You don't want it to open too far, but about that far is good. If you turn the saxophone around again, there's the G key, and you want it to avoid the spring for the key right here. If it hits that, it will make a clicking sound when you play. If you do go too far so that the top of the key hits the spring, hold down the key with one hand. With the other hand, carefully bend up the touch piece. If the octave key opens too far, then the cork underneath your thumb could be too thin, or possibly the key is bent. To solve the problem, either straighten the key or replace the cork underneath your thumb so that it's thicker. This is how a properly functioning octave mechanism works. When no keys are pressed down, both of the octave keys are closed. When the octave lever is pressed, there's a little bit of gap, and then the octave key opens the right amount. When the G key is pressed, the spring from the neck octave key activates the octave rocker, and that opens up the body octave key. When you close the G key, it should close the neck octave key all the way and open the body octave key, and there should be a little bit of gap between the G key and the body octave key. Another problem that's not nearly as common, but it does happen, there can be too thick of a cork underneath the back part of the octave rocker. The octave rocker is supposed to either open up the neck octave key or the body octave key, and if one is open, the other one should be closed. Sometimes people put too thick of a cork on the back side, and I'm going to simulate putting too thick of a cork right there. So what happens is it keeps this key from closing. Now there actually should not be any cork on the backs. When you let down the octave lever, the octave rocker should sit on this part of the octave rocker and not this part. If it sits on this part, then it's going to keep the octave key, the body octave key, open. I hope this video has been helpful. If you had a hard time understanding what I was saying, look in the description below for a link to the video Understanding the Saxophone Key Mechanism, and it should make things more understandable.